okay, you are having this pain about me leaving. That's a you thing. That's yours to carry. That's not mine. And I think,
be in the family, be part of the family, follow the family's dream. It all began with a voice that had stayed silent far too long. A voice bruised by betrayal, buried under humiliation, muted for decades. But silence was over. On a crisp Arizona morning, inside a courtroom buzzing with anticipation, the sharp click of Meri Brown's heels echoed like a drumbeat of defiance. Slowly, with grace sharpened by years of pain, she rose and walked toward the witness stand. No cameras were permitted inside, but if they had been, the world would have witnessed history. The once-forgotten first wife of a polygamous empire stepping into the unforgiving glare of justice. Meri's navy blazer was tailored like armor, her blonde hair pulled back with intention, not for style, but for strength. In her hands, a bulging folder stuffed with receipts, contracts, financial records, a paper trail of decades where she had given everything yet been handed almost nothing. She passed Robyn and Kody without a glance. Her presence alone thundered louder than words. Robyn dropped her gaze, while Kody stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, already bracing for a battle he never believed he could lose. But Meri wasn't here to wage war. She was here to reclaim her dignity. Adjusting the microphone, she steadied herself. Her eyes locked with the judge, a calm woman in her 60s, who nodded subtly, inviting Meri to begin. Meri's voice was steady, but beneath each word was the tremor of years denied. "Your Honor," she began, "I stand here to reclaim what was owed to me. Not just as a wife, but as a woman, as a mother, as a human being." The courtroom froze. Gasps, whispers, but no interruptions. Kody sat rigid, arms folded like a fortress. Robyn's hands fidgeted nervously in her lap. Meri's voice sharpened. "I want what's mine, and I will not back down." For decades, fans of Sister Wives had seen Meri fade into the background, her heartbreak, her infamous catfishing scandal, her desperate attempts to remain relevant while Kody's affections shifted toward Robyn. But that woman was gone. The Meri standing here was no supporting character. She was the headline, the thunderclap in a storm years in the making. She lifted the first paper. "This is a payment record from August 14th, 2018. Money from my business deposited into the family trust. This was meant to fund Coyote Pass, our so-called shared inheritance." Her hand shook, but her resolve didn't. She lifted another document. "This is an email from our broker confirming my financial investment." Then another. And this, a copy of our TLC contract, where every wife agreed our income would build homes on that land. No shouting, no tears. Just a voice slicing sharper than any scream. Her attorney, a sharp-eyed woman in tan, let the silence carry her client's strength. "When Kody and I legally divorced in 2014, Meri continued, her eyes locking on Kody, "I believed spiritual equality would remain, that the covenants of our family still meant something." Her words cut like glass. That was a lie. Kody shifted, uncomfortable. Robyn flushed red, her eyes fixed downward. "I spent 30 years in this family. I raised children. I helped build a show that funded that property. And now I'm told quietly and indirectly that I don't deserve a single acre?" Her grip tightened on the wooden stand. "I surrendered my marriage. I surrendered my voice. But I will surrender no more." Behind her, Janelle Brown crossed her arms and gave the faintest nod, her silent way of saying, "I'm with you." The judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Brown, are you claiming the Coyote Pass property was to be divided equally among all 4 wives?" "Yes, Your Honor, that was the agreement. Financial, verbal, emotional, contractual, and you only discovered your name was missing from the deed recently?" "Not until late 2023, Meri replied firmly. "That's when Janelle and I began comparing documents and everything unraveled." The courtroom leaned closer. "And what was Mr. Brown's explanation?" Meri exhaled slowly. "He said he worked harder, so he deserved more. But that was never the deal. We agreed to split the land equally, because we were a family." The judge nodded, jotting notes as a bailiff collected evidence. Kody's lawyer stood stiffly. "Objection, Your Honor. This is emotional interpretation, not legal fact. Mrs. Brown did not contribute financially to Mr. Brown's level." Meri scoffed quietly, but her lawyer rose like steel. With respect, this family's entire fortune was one umbrella. Reality TV income, book sales, speaking events, business ventures, all funneled into the same accounts. Mr. Brown blurred the lines on purpose. Mrs. Brown was not a spiritual accessory. She was an unpaid partner in a decades-long enterprise that bankrolled Coyote Pass. Outside, rumors leaked to reporters waiting by the doors. They caught a glimpse of Kody storming out during recess, his expression carved in stone. Once, Meri had looked at him with love. Now, she looked at him like a stranger. Worse, like an adversary. And maybe that's exactly what he was. Inside the conference room, Janelle and Meri sat with their attorneys, the air thick with betrayal. A large map of Coyote Pass lay unfolded on the table, divided into 4 quadrants. "We were each promised a section," Janelle whispered, tracing her finger over the map. "But look, our names aren't anywhere. Not even in the margins." Meri nodded quietly. She had already known. The betrayal wasn't sudden. It was a slow poison, fed through decades of manipulation, gaslighting, false reassurances. She remembered the early meetings by the fire pit in Flagstaff, Kody's grand speeches. Each wife will have her own house, we'll be neighbors but independent. This will be our legacy. At the time, her legal marriage had already been dissolved so he could adopt Robyn's kids. But Kody had looked her in the eyes and said, "You'll always be my wife in every way that matters." Now those words echoed in her head, not a promise, but a taunt. It was Janelle who uncovered the truth in 2023 while sorting through tax notices. At the courthouse, she learned the deed carried only 2 names, Kody Brown and Robyn Brown. "He told me the same thing he told you," Janelle admitted. "That he put in more money, that he worked harder." They stared at each other, both realizing they had been fed the same recycled lie. It was Kody's pattern: move the goalposts, redefine equality, mask reality with a TV version while the real betrayal unfolded in silence. The truth of Coyote Pass wasn't unity. It was leverage. For Meri, that realization finally burned through decades of denial. She had stayed after the catfishing scandal. She had stayed after Kody abandoned her emotionally, publicly. She had stayed because she thought loyalty would eventually secure her place in his legacy. But now she knew. The man she once trusted had already erased her from the dream they built together. Already erased her from the dream they built together. Kody had played his hand quietly, strategically, and most painfully, legally. He had rewritten the story so that in the end only 2 names remained, his and Robyn's. The land, the money, the history, all funneled into their hands. "I kept telling myself," Meri whispered once in the courthouse hallway, her voice breaking under the weight of years, "that if I waited long enough, he'd come back. That I still mattered." She looked away. "But he didn't, and I don't, not in his world. Not in his contracts. Not in his deeds. And that," she said, "is why this case mattered. Because it was never just about 12 acres in Arizona. It was about decades of unpaid labor, emotional servitude, and spiritual manipulation. It was about women promised a future and then erased from it. It was about the lie of equal wives in a system that was never equal at all." Kody still clung to his narrative, that he had carried the weight of the family, that he alone deserved the reward. But the truth was bitter. Meri and Janelle had carried it too, in silence, in sacrifice, in shadows. Now at last they carried it into court. This wasn't property litigation. It was betrayal on trial. Betrayal disguised as fiduciary duty, betrayal dressed in contracts and deeds, betrayal wrapped in the illusion of family unity. Meri Brown's courtroom entrance had not been flashy or theatrical, but it had shattered everything. With her navy blazer and blonde hair framing her face, she walked with a quiet authority that echoed louder than any camera flash. No TLC editing, no staged confessional, just raw, uncut truth unleashed at last. Her solicitor rose, calm but unflinching. "Your Honor, this case is not merely about acreage. It is about fiduciary responsibility, misrepresentation of ownership, and deception presented as family unity." He pointed to the stack of documents, financial records, contracts, tax notices, each one a nail in Kody Brown's carefully built facade. Among them, one paper stood out, a 2021 deed transfer. A simple form, but devastating. Kody had moved Plot 3 of Coyote Pass into joint tenancy with Robyn. No signatures from the other wives. No disclosure, just ink, arrogance, and betrayal. In his deposition, Kody had smirked. "I paid for 92% of the property. The others were supposed to contribute, but I fronted the money. I had to be in control to ensure it was developed." His words rang with smug certainty, but the courtroom wasn't buying it. Because the money he claimed as his had come from years of family income, reality TV paychecks, book sales, appearances, all built on the image of a plural family. an image that collapsed without the wives and children. Meri's solicitor struck like lightning. Mr. Brown, from whose earnings did you pay that 92%? Was it not income generated by sister wives, which required the active participation of Meri and Janelle? Kody faltered. They were involved, he muttered. Did they receive equal payout? No, Kody admitted. I managed distribution. And who authorized that distribution? TLC, a business manager? Or you alone? Silence. Kody's face hardened. The truth needed no words, it was written all over him. Emails revealed Robyn's fingerprints too. We don't want the other wives making this messy, one message read. Better to finalize before they notice. The defense scrambled, arguing it was about legal clarity. But Meri's solicitor cut through. If this was clarity, why no meetings? Why no signatures? Why was Meri still paying tax on land she didn't even legally own? There were no answers, just evasions. Weeks before the trial, Meri had walked alone through Coyote Pass. The desert wind had whipped across the barren earth as she looked out at what was once a promised legacy. She remembered Kody in 2018 pointing to the ridges with boyish enthusiasm. You'll have the best porch, the best view. She had believed him. She had pictured sipping coffee there, grandchildren running nearby, maybe even finding healing. But there was no porch. No unity, just dirt and silence. She bent down, picked up a jagged stone, and whispered to herself, "This is all I'll get if I don't fight." And so she did. When Meri and Janelle entered the courtroom, they weren't just filing a lawsuit. They were drawing a line in the sand. For years, they had been told to wait, to obey, to trust. But silence does not etch your name onto a deed. Obedience does not buy you land. And trust does not protect you from betrayal. The judge called a recess, but no one moved. The tension was too thick, the air too charged. The clerk's voice cut through, "Mrs. Brown, please take the stand." Every eye followed her. Meri stood, squared her shoulders, and walked forward. Robyn leaned toward her attorney, whispering urgently. Kody glared, jaw locked. But nothing stopped Meri now. She spoke softly, but her words shook the room. "Your Honor, I was raised to believe silence was loyalty. That women should wait, trust, and obey. I waited, I trusted, I believed. But waiting doesn't secure a name on a deed. Waiting doesn't build a home. Waiting doesn't protect your rights." She held up another document, her voice like steel. "This is the 2018 contract, signed by all of us. It states that all TLC income and family business revenue would be equally invested in Coyote Pass." The judge nodded. Admitted into evidence as Exhibit 17A. Her solicitor added, "We were promised equal plots." Kody himself called it our legacy. Yet in 2023, Meri discovered the land was secretly divided, and all of it now belongs to Kody and Robyn. Gasps rippled across the courtroom. Even the judge leaned forward, eyebrows raised. Then came the damning emails. February 2021. Better to finalize the paperwork before the wives ask questions. Another from Robyn. Let's finish this before they get involved. Less drama. The gallery erupted in whispers. Reporters' pens flew across notepads. Robyn's cheeks flushed crimson. Kody's fists clenched. Meri didn't flinch. She raised another paper. "This is proof of an $18,200 payment I made from my LuLaRoe business. I was told this secured my plot. I have 6 of these transactions." She looked at Kody. Her voice cracked, but her resolve did not. "I was told I hadn't paid enough. That I wasn't serious. But I gave my income. I gave my voice. I gave my life. And in return, I became invisible." The courtroom froze. Even the judge leaned forward. "Mrs. Brown, to clarify, you're asserting that verbal, financial, and contractual agreements were made, and Mr. Brown violated them in secret?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And that Mrs. Robyn Brown was complicit in this transfer?" "Yes." "What outcome are you seeking?" Meri didn't hesitate. "Either buy me out at full market value, or divide the land as it was promised." The courtroom buzzed. Then it was Kody's turn. He walked to the stand, shoulders hunched, eyes dark. The judge's voice rang out. "Mr. Brown, did you inform Mrs. Brown of the deed transfer? Mr. Brown, did you inform Mrs. Brown of the deed transfer?" "No," Kody finally muttered. The judge's eyebrow arched. "Why not?" She seemed uninterested. "Distant," Kody replied coldly. "I didn't think she cared anymore. Did she contribute financially? She might have. I don't know." The room stiffened. Meri's solicitor rose, waving a stack of bank statements. "Are these hers?" Kody's jaw tightened. Yes. Then she contributed. And yet you excluded her? I had to act fast, Kody snapped. Only Robyn and I were serious about it. I didn't have time to hold hands. Gasps rippled across the gallery. A reporter nearly dropped his notepad. The judge's expression darkened like a storm. Mr. Brown, she asked firmly, did you use shared family finances to purchase land that you placed solely under your and Robyn's names? Kody hesitated, then admitted the truth. Yes. And that was the moment the mask cracked. The patriarch, the spiritual leader, the loving husband, all of it collapsed. What stood now was a man exposed, someone who had used unity as a shield and faith as a weapon. Robyn buried her face in her hands. The courtroom buzzed, journalists scribbling furiously, cameras waiting outside. More evidence would be revealed. Maybe even TLC footage never aired. But the damage was already done. Meri had broken her silence. She had looked her oppressor in the eye and refused to bow anymore. On the courthouse steps, Meri stood tall. The air was sharp, but it didn't weaken her. It fueled her. I didn't come here to hurt anyone, she told reporters, her voice trembling but unshaken. I came here to stop being erased. That single line carried decades of weight, years of smiling through heartbreak, standing still while others overshadowed her, swallowing betrayal disguised as love. For too long, the wives had been told obedience was strength. But obedience never placed a name on a deed. Silence never guaranteed equality. And patience never protected their rights. Now the silence was gone, shattered beyond repair. This is about equality, Meri continued. This is about truth. And never again letting someone else tell your story for you. Behind her, Janelle stood steady. Not as a background figure, but as a co-author of this reckoning. Inside, the clerk's voice cut the tension. Mrs. Robyn Brown, take the stand. The room froze. Paperwork stilled midair. Robyn's heels clicked nervously across the floor. The confident, camera-ready version of her was gone. What walked forward was a woman stripped of her armor, trembling under the weight of truth. It was always my understanding, she began carefully, that the land would be divided evenly. That's what Kody told us. And did you believe Meri and Janelle were rightful owners? Robyn hesitated. At first, yes. But then things changed. People left. Christine walked away. Meri grew distant. Janelle was frustrated. It felt like I was the only one still committed to the dream. But Meri's lawyer wasn't here for dreams. She wanted facts. You trusted Kody with the paperwork, yet your name appears on 3 of the 4 plots. Did you question why Meri and Janelle were excluded? Robyn squirmed. I thought they didn't care anymore. Instead of verifying, you signed documents giving everything to you and Kody? Robyn's lips quivered. I was just following orders. The room erupted, gasps, reporters scribbling. Robyn flushed red as the solicitor produced a damning note. Did you send this to the attorney? We don't want the other wives to make it messy. Better finalize before they notice. Robyn went pale. I meant emotionally messy, not deception, she whispered. But the tide had turned. You profited from land they helped finance, the lawyer pressed. You live in a finished home while they were denied foundations. That is not trust, that is complicity. Robyn broke. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I trusted him. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I never asked to be the legal wife. I never asked for favoritism. She turned toward Meri, voice ragged. I'm sorry. I never meant to push you out. But Meri didn't move. She didn't blink. She simply stared back, the silence of a woman who no longer needed apologies, only accountability. The judge's gavel cut through the noise. Mrs. Brown, emotional distress does not excuse legal negligence. There will be consequences. Weeks dragged by as the trial continued. Finally, the courtroom hushed as the judge delivered her ruling. This court finds that verbal, written, and financial agreements existed among all parties concerning Coyote Pass. While informal in parts, they were represented internally and publicly as equal. The plaintiffs, Mrs. Meri Brown and Mrs. Janelle Brown, have proven legitimate claims of joint ownership. Mr. Kody Brown, with assistance from Mrs. Robyn Brown, secured title to the property without proper disclosure or fair compensation. The air cracked with tension. It is hereby ordered, the judge declared, that Coyote Pass be reappraised at current market value. Mrs. Meri Brown and Mrs. Janelle Brown shall receive equal reimbursement within 90 days. If not fulfilled, the land shall be sold and divided equally, 25% to each of the 4 original wives. The gallery gasped. Meri closed her eyes. exhaling a breath she had been holding for decades. No tears, no cheers, just quiet triumph. Janelle squeezed her hand. Across the aisle, Robyn collapsed into sobs while Kody stared blankly. The throne he built revealed as cardboard. Outside, chaos erupted. Twitter lit up. Gwen posted, "Mom was right. So was Meri. They deserve that land." Gwendolyn added on TikTok, "Kody's not mad he lost. He's mad he got caught." TLC scrambled behind the scenes. Rumors swirled. Would Robyn even return to the show? The so-called favorite wife was no longer untouchable. Weeks later, Meri posted from a small cabin in Utah. The camera panned across wood walls and warm light. "This is mine," she smiled. "Not just a house, but proof that you can begin again, at any place, at any age. I matter." Her comment section exploded with love. "We're proud of you, Meri. You did it." And she had. What Meri gained wasn't just land, it was her voice. For years, the world called her desperate, needy, weak. But Meri wasn't weak. She had been faithful, too faithful. And when faith becomes a weapon, it turns into a cage. That courtroom cracked the lock. It revealed Kody's leadership as power, not love. It exposed Robyn's tears as not always innocent. It proved silence is not consent. And it proved one thing above all: Meri Brown was never invisible. She was simply waiting for the right moment. And when it came, she didn't just speak. She roared, "Just speak." She roared,